A Swift Kick in the Ass, Episode 1.
All big changes start with a swift kick in the ass. Join the journey of lifelong friends, John Curran and Tom Stewart, as they make conventional thought bend over and take a boot to the keister. Warning, listeners may notice a force equal to or greater than needed to get your ass moving. A swift kick in the ass, living life on your terms.
Welcome, it's Tom Stewart.
And John Curran.
We're lifelong friends. John and I have known each other for 40-something years. 43, I think.
I think that's about right. No one can seem to remember back that far.
Yeah, we met when I was 4 years old. John was 5.
Yes, my mom was telling me just a few days ago that she remembers Tommy in his diapers and his little white T-shirt. I have no recollection of that, but
so
I trust her.
Obviously, that was before. We might have met maybe when we were toddlers, and we don't remember that. But when I remember, and I was talking to John with this about the other day, I remember the first time I met you. I was 4 years old. We were at a mutual friend named Brian's house, and you had a witchy poo mask. I don't know if it was your mask or if it was Brian's, but we were out front of his house, and we were running around his mom's car, and you were looking through one side with the mask on. I was looking through the other side of the window, and we were kind of like running around and circling, and me, you, and Brian were doing that. And for some reason, Brian's mom called him in, and, he had to go eat dinner. So that's how I met John. So I was like, hey, I'm Tommy, he's with Johnny, and walked down to, he used to live on the corner of my street, on the corner house. And we started hanging out, and I used to wait for him every day after school. Starting then, I was in kindergarten, and was I? Or no, I was in preschool. I guess I would have been in preschool. Yeah, and you would have been kindergarten, but you went to Hollywood Hills Elementary School in Florida, which was, and I went to like a church Presbyterian daycare or something, or preschool, I guess it was. But I would get out earlier, so I would wait for you until you got home every day.
Yep, and then the fun began. We had a lot of good times and really grew up together and have stayed in touch ever since. It's great to be sitting here behind the mic with you and looking forward to all that we have to cover.
So to orientate everyone, I still live actually in Hollywood, Florida, where we grew up. I've gone away. I've ventured into the Air Force, and I've traveled around. John ventured to explain where you are.
I'm in Richmond, Virginia, but it seems like about the time I was 17, I started moving north. So I've spent 15 years in Atlanta and 8 years in Richmond.
No, that's fine. People want to get to know us. People want to know where we are. We'll talk quickly about what our intentions are, what a swift kick in the ass is. We're just trying to give some backstory to let the people know who the hell they're listening to. So, John, what's a swift kick in the ass mean to you?
Well, it certainly is not the literal meaning. We're definitely not advocating somebody kicking somebody in the ass. What we really mean by that is a swift kick in the ass is something that's jarring, it's jolting, it has purpose, and it's a wake-up call, really. Not, as I said, advocating that anyone go out and kick anyone in the ass, but to rather go out and show them that they need to wake up. I'm losing
because it's about change, right? It's about personal change. We're trying to establish for ourselves and to inspire others to make a change in their life. And sometimes you need a swift kick in the ass. Sometimes you need a friend like John to give you a swift kick in the ass. Sometimes you need life to give you a swift kick in the ass. But what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to prevent life from giving us a swift kick in the ass, because it's much better to motivate yourself than wait to be motivated by some circumstance that you do not have control of.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think we've been swift kick in the ass for each other throughout the years. And we've grown up together. We have ventured out as individuals. We've started families on our own. We live in different states, but we still have that common bond that really glues us together. It's a lifelong friendship, and it's built on trust. It's built on honesty and calling things for the way they are. So I think oftentimes that's what it takes to deliver a good, swift kick in the ass is to be honest with yourself or the other person.
So I was trying to remember some of the times that you gave me a swift kick in the ass when we were kids. And I know it started pretty young when my sister used to tell me that hippies used to drive these white vans, and if they caught little kids, they would catch you and smoke your ears. Well, being a 4-year-old kid, that sounds pretty scary. So every time I saw any car, I would like hide behind a bush, especially if it was like a white van. And you kind of like followed me around and did the same thing. And then I think you finally caught a clue and were like, "Hey, there's no hippies that
Well,
are going to smoke our ears."
yeah, I think it was fun in the beginning. And it was fun to be sitting there next to you in that bush as the van drove by and feeling that fear. But as you said, I think the fear quickly wore off, and we realized we can't live our life like that. We
Right.
can't live in fear. Uh, Now, if the van stopped and the doors open and the hippies were running out and trying to grab our ears, yeah, it was time to run. But that never happened, thank God.
I was also thinking about the time that I think I was 11 years old, probably just getting into middle school, and you were a grade ahead of me. You were always
Hmm.
not a full year older than me, but almost. So you were in seventh grade, and I love toys, and I still do. But back then, I had all this original Star Wars toys. I had tons of comic books, Spider-Man action figures, and John said to me one day, he goes, "Hey, you're getting older. You want to meet girls." And John was avidly playing spin the bottle around with some of the neighborhood girls, and he goes, "Girls don't like boys that have toys, that play with toys." So I cleaned out all of my toys with John's help. We blew up all the Star Wars figures with firecrackers, and which my mom still to this day says, "You let that Johnny Curran talk you into giving away all your toys." Because what was left over, I gave to one of the other neighborhood kids. But one of the fondest moments is we had this. There was character named Stretch Armstrong. It was like this stretchable, probably about a 12-inch toy that was you could stretch it. But I had the monster. I had the villain. It was actually this cool looking green abomination looking guy with red eyes, and you could take his head off, and you could see that he had like this gel. There was like this little block in there. There was this like red, looked like jelly. So we wanted to figure out what was in this guy. So we stabbed him with our pocket knife, and we kept on throwing him up and down in the street until we finally just splattered his guts out. And it
Well,
was pretty cool.
I think we tried stretching him as much as we possibly could. We tried every way to stretch him and break him, and we just couldn't do it. So,
That thing was cool. They should bring those back.
and are you really sure you were only 11? Because I think you were more like 18.
Yeah. No, that's when I stopped nursing.
No, I think you're right. I think we were in our early teens, or maybe not quite.
And I
But
want to say we converted my room into a disco. I think we had I had not a lava lamp, but I had this lamp that we got at Spencer's that when the heat would light up, the heat would make this thing circle or rotate, and it like shined like spades and aces all over the wall, and it would slowly spin. And then we had like black lights and some. I think I had a Black Light Panther poster. Remember that one that was like real
yeah,
popular? It was a Black Panther, and he was like on a tree limb. I think I had that, and probably had some music and some albums or something, maybe some 8 tracks.
yeah, that was definitely the time where we spent a lot of time at the mall.
Right.
And what I remember is we, instead of walking on the sidewalk, taking, I don't know how many miles to get to the mall, we learned that we could get to the mall in about 10 minutes if we just started running and would cut through people's houses. And some people had fences, so it wasn't a straight line. We had to zigzag and time it correctly and make sure that the dogs weren't out, the people weren't out. And we were just like little ninjas running in between the houses, zigzagging, hiding behind bushes so the hippies wouldn't catch our ears. and and it cut a lot of time. And we had more time to spend at the mall and eat pretzels and try to meet girls and going to Spencer's, which was really kind of a dirty place at the time.
Yeah,
I mean,
they had that one section.
Yeah, it's for the adults, and it made us feel like we were adults, but we're just kids.
I remember, and this was not with you, John, but when I was in high school, we used to go to Spencer's, and one of my friends, he loved grabbing the Joy Jelly, and he would conveniently squirt it all over the person that was next to him. And every time we brought someone new with us, this kid would grab it and spray it all over you.
Yeah, I remember your Joy Jelly phase, Tom.
But yeah, we happened to live in between two malls. We had a Hollywood Mall and a Hollywood Fashion Center, both of which are now defunct and repurposed. In fact, the Hollywood Fashion Center had made a primetime TV because it is literally a bat cave. It was an abandoned mall because they built out some new walls out west, so all the big anchor stores like JCPenney's and Burdines and so forth, they moved out west to a Pembroke Lakes Mall, which is in Pembroke Pines, Florida. And this mall had sat empty for probably 15 years. Well, unknown, I didn't even know that we had bats in the area, but we have bats in the area down here. And they took up roost inside the mall, and there's literally hundreds upon hundreds of bats and fecal droppings. The guys that went in to inspect the mall had to wear like hazmat uniforms. So they didn't want to kill all the bats, so they made like a trap door so some could fly out and they can't get back in. So they did that, and they had this guy, his name was Batman, and I guess he he likes bats, and he didn't want to, he's an environmental friendly person, and he chased all the bats out, and then they knocked down the mall and make way for a new Walmart superstore.
Yeah, and it took them how many years? About 25 years then.
Oh yeah,
to knock that building down. It's that empty. It was all boarded up. It was derelict. I know there were a number of homeless people, in addition to basically millions of bats.
And it was good times there. In fact, I learned some of my first entrepreneur lessons there. There was a game room called Aladdin's Castle, and it might have been a chain. It might have been around the country too. But they had video games and pinball machines, and Aladdin's Castle you had to use tokens. So you would stick $1 in, you get 4 tokens. Well, if you stuck $5 in, you got $7.50 in tokens. So me and one of my friends got the idea, say, hey, if we spend $5 and we got $2.50 to try to get someone to give us money for those tokens. So we would stand by the change machine, and when people came up for quarters or for tokens, we would say, hey, we got some. We'll just give them to you right here. Give us your $1. And I could sit there all day and play Aladdin's Castle for free.
And it bought an Orange Julius after you were done.
Right. It was a frothy mix of, I don't know, what was it, orange juice and some creamy stuff.
It's probably better off if we don't know what it really was, but I think you're right. It was orange juice and powdered sugar. It was delicious.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
That was before smoothies were so popular.
All right, so the focus of this show really is we kind of have a ready, aim, fire mentality for the way that we're setting about to change our lives. And this is about getting ready, right, John?
This is absolutely about getting ready. When you're trying to make some positive change in your life, chances are you're feeling one of these emotions that I'm about to mention. Number one, feeling lost. You have no idea where you are in this life, or where you want to go. You're just there, but you're not really sure where you're standing. Frustration, uh, knowing really what you don't want more than knowing what you do want. I think that's pretty rampant across society nowadays because we see all the media about everything, that there's all the opportunities that are out there, and we just can't take advantage of that. So we don't really know what we want or what we don't, what we don't want. Um, Confusion, which probably mixes in with my frustration that I just mentioned. We're so overwhelmed by choices, and we're unclear about a path that we should take. When we're unsatisfied, we're generally happy, but perhaps unfulfilled by our work or by our life in some degree. And then the last one is that we're discouraged. The world has just beaten us down. We know what we want. We have a plan to do it. We might be doing it, but we're not getting any traction, and we're losing our motivation or our drive. So that's really easy to happen because I think a lot of us try to do the right thing. We know what we want to do. We might even take action to do it, but life has a way of kicking our ass, and we lose that motivation because life change does not happen overnight. It is a journey. It takes a long time, but it's not good to get discouraged if you know where you're heading and you know what you want. You just have to realize it's part of life.
Now, sometimes it's not life. Sometimes it's the battle within. It's ourself that gets in our own way, whether it's be a addiction or procrastination or a whole host of other things. We just we become reactive rather than proactive, and we're living our life just waiting for the next thing to happen. And in between the waves that are surging and hitting us, we kind of relax when, okay, everything's cool right now, nothing's happening. Oh no, we got this big bill on us. We have to do this. Like, I just had my roof replaced. I had to hook up. The city said I have to hook up to the sewer system, so I had to have my septic tank filled in with sand and pay someone $2,800 to come hook me up to the sewer system. These little things that come they build up on you and feel like a huge weight on your shoulders. That it's just life happening to you. Where if you kind of take some proactive measures, you can sometimes prevent some of this from happening.
Yeah, your story reminds me of a story of my own about how when I was first married. Now, just to give you a backstory, I married late in life. I married when I think I was 34 or 35. So my family was really concerned about me because I had not settled down. I was pretty wild, and it took the right woman to really settle me down.
You're like Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah. maybe not as funny. I certainly don't have his money. But I remember a conversation that I had with my sister at the time. My wife and I had moved into our first house, which was a fixer-upper, just a little elbow grease, a little sweat equity, and we would have ourselves a nice house. It turned out to be a lot of sweat equity, a lot of bruised knuckles and long hours working on that house, but we were expecting a child. So we had a lot of pressure on us to get the house ready, get moved in, and we had gotten through it. So I was talking to my sister on the phone, and she said, "Johnny, I am so proud of you. And I said, why are you so proud of me? She says, well, I just can't believe how far you've come. Look at you. You're married. You have a beautiful wife. You have a house now. You have a good job and a child on the way. And then she stopped and she said, you know what? As I think about it, you really didn't have any need to settle down before. You didn't have a need for a house or even a steady job. You were enjoying life. And I think that has a lot of truth. A lot of us don't make change until we need to make change. And we're trying to get through that and to be more proactive in our approach to life change, because that's the way we feel you get the most traction and you get the most out of life.
No, what you said one thing there that really is a swift kick in the ass that many people face, and that's the birth of a child, especially your first one. That's a big change of lifestyle. A great change of lifestyle, and it you mature and learn unconditional love and so many good things from having a child, but it's also another a financial strain sometimes, especially on a new couple that just got married and has just tried to move into a house that they have a lot of repairs to work on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting as I think back about that time in my life. As I said, I married late in life, but it wasn't all fun and games. Um, I did have a good bachelorhood, not denying that at all. But I also spent a lot of time working my way through school, and in fact, going into graduate studies and working my way through school through an MBA as well as an MHA, which is a Master's of Healthcare Administration. And my goal really at the time was to become a CEO of a hospital. I was career focused. I was going to be the top dog in a hospital. And when I met my wife, that was my goal still. But that all changed the moment I had my child. And I thought, this is what life is about. This child brings a smile to my face. And this is what is really important to me. So I decided to put my career goals on the back burner. And I'm very thankful for that. It really changed my life in a lot of ways. And it's also very good because when managed care hit healthcare, all of the middle management jobs dried up, and that ladder that I was expecting to climb disintegrated. So I had to choose another path and have no regrets.
Right. We all have our own motivations, and I think you and I are both on the same track where we really want to spend more time with our family, more quality time. I know in mine you used to have the same problem I do, but I have a hellacious commute. I live in Hollywood, which is just in between Fort Lauderdale and Miami, but I commute to Miami, and Miami is one of the worst cities in the world for traffic. It's just bottlenecked. It's even we have an express lane that basically costs you $7 to go from North Miami to mid Miami. So $7 I spend every day, and this thing is as soon as I get on, it's backed up. It's like, why am I paying $7 to sit in traffic? But basically it's an hour and a half commute each way. So that's 3 hours of my day that I just feel like it's wasted, and that's 3 hours I could be spending with my family. So the goal is trying to learn to live on our own terms and to reach a financial point where I don't have to be dictated in a corporate environment. I mean, if you want to work in a corporate environment, that's fine. We're not saying anything's wrong. But for me, I would like to I have some other ideas and other things that I'm working on. And that's something I'm trying to work towards right now. So I don't have to be dependent on a corporate environment. In fact, just 2 days ago, my company laid off like 12 to 15 people. Some people that had been with the company for like 15 or 20 years, and that's sad. It's a sad fact of life, and that's you don't live life on your own terms when someone else controls your destiny like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I work in the corporate environment right now. I work from home, however, and I don't see myself ever going back into the office. When I lived in Atlanta, I I spent a solid hour and a half in the morning to travel 28 miles.
That's
That's
the same commute, same amount of time that I have. Yeah,
yeah, 28 miles, an hour, solid hour and a half in the morning, and that was taking the back roads. In Atlanta, I would not go on the highway. It would take me about 2.5 hours at least.
see, I'm the same way. I take a combination between highway and back roads. But the thing is, I'm driving through dangerous neighborhoods. I'm stopping and going. And I was listening to a NPR the other day, and they did a study on people driving through or commuters, and they said the same stress level that a commuter faces in an environment like that is the same stress that you get inside that soldiers face in war.
I don't doubt it. When I was doing my commute in Atlanta, I wouldn't even get out of the driveway and I would be pissed off. It was terrible. I was so angry and I hadn't even left my driveway.
I hear you.
So the hour and a half was just in the morning. In the afternoon, I would actually split my commute, drive about 45 minutes, stop at the gym, work out, wait for traffic to pass, or, and not pass, but slow down. And then I'd go on my merry way. So we're talking just a large chunk of your life taken up behind the car or behind the wheel of a car. It was no way to live. So when I got an opportunity to have the company move me up to Virginia, I went for it because I had it up to my ears. It was enough for me. And now I work at home, uh, and I love it. I get to spend time with my children. I have a lot of flexibility. I have a BlackBerry, so I can go wherever I'd like. But it's still
You're still on a leash. You're
I'm still on
still
a leash.
right, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you can think of a way to get off the leash at the same time, whether it's a side hustle or coming up with some other multiple streams of income coming in, so you're not so dependent. So if something ever did happen, if they say, John, you know what, we got this guy in India to do your same job for half the rate, so I'm sorry, we're gonna have to let you go. It's not such a big blow.
Yeah, I think also there's a mindset involved here. About 5 years ago, my position at the company was eliminated, and my wife and I were in a very serious financial situation. We were in debt up to our eyeballs, and it was just a 600-pound gorilla on our back. So we sat down because we had enough. We said something had to change, and we came up with two goals. One was to have money in the bank. The second goal was not to owe anybody any money. And we came up with a plan and we were working it and we had traction. It was great. I mean, I felt so accomplished because we were doing it. We are finally getting that gorilla off of our back, and we could see the light at the end of the tunnel. About halfway through our plan, that's when my position was eliminated. And I thought about it. The company was really just looking out for itself. It was making cuts because it needed to. It wasn't anything personal against me. It was doing that for its own survival. And when I thought about it from that perspective, I thought, well, as long as we're reaching towards our goals of having money in the bank and not owing anybody any money, it really did not matter how I funded that. So it opened my eyes, and I didn't hold a grudge or any ill feeling towards the company. And I started looking for another job. And within about 2 months, I was back with the same company, making more money, had a better title, and I worked from home officially. It was fantastic. And I have it pretty good. I've been in the position now for a while. I enjoy it. It's challenging. But like you said, there's still that dependency. And that part I don't like. I don't like depending on anybody. I like to be independent. So, as Tom said, if the corporate gig is what you want to do, you should be doing it. We're not trying to tell you what to do. We're trying to offer perspective and make you think about things, because your life can be different if you want it to be. You just have to be willing to first assess where you are, look at where you want to go, and then take some action. Recognizing that you're going to make mistakes along the way, you're going to learn, your plans are going to evolve with time. But if you stick to your goal and you focus on the actions that lead you towards your goal, you're going to make it, and you can do anything that you want.
So that's where ready comes in, or accessing. You said accessing where you are, right?
Yes.
You had mentioned 5 points. I think they were feeling lost, frustration, confusion, unsatisfied, and discouraged.
Yes.
Now, I think you've given a contradiction to each one of those. So you feel lost. What do you do when you feel lost? How do you get out of that?
Well, I think if you, in the real world, just outside of your head, what do you do when you're lost? You look around. You try to figure out where you are and how you got there. And even if you don't know how you got there, you can still take a look around and explore some possible options on how to get out of there. Make sense?
Makes sense. Okay, so frustration. I'm like really frustrated. I don't know what to do next. I don't know what I want. How do I overcome that?
Well, I think the key is to focus on where you are and what you do have. You need to find happiness in those moments. Believe me, I feel frustrated just as much as everyone else. But it's those little things in life, like the smile my child makes, or that laugh that brings a smile to your face. So I look at what brings a smile to my face. It's as simple as that. And then work from there. Look at where you are and what you have, and take steps to make that better, the best you can.
Okay, so now I'm confused. I know there's options. I know there's some way to make some change in my life, but I don't know which way to go. I get paralyzed because I overanalyze everything, and I don't know where to start. What would you suggest then?
Well, I think first of all, don't feel alone in any one of these feelings. I think each and every one of us has felt one of them during our life. So what I would say, if you're confused, write down what you think the different options are. Look at the situations and then do it in a business term. They call it a SWOT analysis. You look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threat of each situation. For instance, working at home is a situation. One of the strengths is that I get to spend time with my family. I don't have a commute. There's lots of strengths associated with that. But then one of the weaknesses is that I'm still working for somebody else. I'm sure I could think of some other weaknesses. Perhaps working with some certain coworkers I don't like. I don't have a choice in that. That would be a weakness. So we have strength, weakness. We look at the opportunities. Well, within my company, there are lots of opportunities. If I wanted to get another job, I could go to the job board, I could apply, perhaps I'd get an interview. If I'm interviewed, perhaps I get a new job. If I want to change and go that path with the company, that opportunity is there. But then there's the threat. And the threat is that I've been doing this for a long time, and I don't necessarily want to retire from the company. That's something personally that I don't want to do. But it's a threat because if I stay on this path, I could end up there. Now, I think anybody could look at their own situation and block it out into strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And if you can think of more than one situation, you do the same thing for that situation, whether it's real or it's just an idea in your head. When you start to think that way, the decisions really become clear because you know what you want and you know what you don't want. It just helps define it.
All right. The fourth on your list was unsatisfied. You're generally happy, but you're unfulfilled. Now, I relate with this. And, sometimes I feel like I should be more than what I have become. And like, there's something more waiting for me. I know that, I have more potential in me, but I have not honed it. I don't spend enough time on it. And how do I overcome that?
Well, I think you need to figure out what matters to you, first of all. For instance, for me, my children and my family are my number one priority. I live, breathe, and I would die for my kids. And that's what makes me smile, and that's what makes life worth living. And I know that by investing my time in my kids, I'm making a lasting impact. And it brings a smile to my face. So if you're unsatisfied, look at what satisfies you. What brings that smile to your face?
All right. And then the fifth on the list, the last one was discouraged. You know what you want, you have a plan, but you lose motivation and drive. How do you keep it up? How do you keep, the accountability of being able to day in and day out follow your goals? I mean, most people, I know, like New Year's resolutions, I think about the 14th day, people have already given up on them. How do we, as a human species, we all seem to be the same. What makes the difference? Who are those people that shine and are able to move beyond that and stay consistent?
Well, I think the key here is not only knowing what you want, but also knowing why you want it, as well as how to get there. A lot of people focus on what they want, but not why they want it. And I'll give you a great example for this. Life is full of challenges, and for me, one of my challenges was quitting smoking cigarettes. That is a tough challenge, let me tell you. I quit several times before I actually quit for good, and this was before any nicotine patch was available. I had to do this cold turkey. And I remember the day that I stopped smoking. I was sick, and I came home from work just with the flu and feeling terrible. I stopped by the grocery store, got my sick comfort food, my orange juice and my ginger ale and my cold medicine and my Kleenex, and I picked up a pack of cigarettes. So I went home and I was eating chicken soup, and I ate my chicken soup, and after you eat, you need a cigarette. So I lit up a cigarette and I just hacked my lungs out. And I thought, why the heck am I doing this? I need to quit. And that's when I made that decision to quit. Now, making that decision to quit is the first step, but there are other hurdles that you have to get over before you're fully out. I recognize that even though it's been 15 years since I've had a cigarette, all it takes is one lapse of judgment or a break in that decision. One cigarette, I will be back at a pack a day. So I think when I have the urges, I look back at that day when I was sick and I made the decision of why I needed to quit. And those reasons that I quit for are just as valid today, the next day, 5 years down the road, 15 years down the road. They're just as valid. So that keeps me on track and going along with my plan. Life is going to be full of challenges. Doesn't matter if you're trying to quit something or you're trying to bring something positive into your life. Know why you want it as well as how you plan to get it. Because life is going to throw things at you that you can never expect. And you're going to have to get over them and keep focused on that goal. If you don't have the passion and have it inside of you and have that grit, you're going right back to where you started. And that itself is very discouraging. So I just think it's better to just stay on track, keep focused on those goals, and recognize that it is going to be challenging, but the reasons why you're doing it are just as good today as they are tomorrow or the next day or so on.
Right. And personal change, you don't want to try to change too much at once. It's not like you're just going to come out and all of a sudden you're going to be Iron Man and you're like, yeah, look at me. You have to take small steps. Sometimes it might be a small thing. Like John was talking about cigarettes. I've never smoked, but I did have a bad addiction to Diet Coke, of all things. That's some people might say, so what? It's not bad, but we're not sure. And I'm an avid jiu-jitsu player. My family and I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's part of my other revenue stream that I plan to develop. And we've been doing it as a family for 5 years. And one of the things that I constantly complain about is my aches and pains. And my wife doesn't have them. And she's not much younger than I am. And it's like, what's different? Well, the difference is I looked at her diet. And I also drink gallons and gallons of Diet Coke. One day I was just driving. I was dropping my son off at school, and I saw this billboard that said, "Diet Coke, live extraordinary." And I was like, "What is this crap? It has nothing to do with Diet Coke. It's not like drink it because it tastes good, drink it, because it's healthy. No, it's just pure marketing." And something just turned me off about that, and I stopped drinking Diet Coke. Now it felt like I was quitting drugs because partially because of the caffeine, but I had headaches. I had bad dreams. I felt weak and tired and depressed, and it was horrible. But it was something that I was glad I did. And you know what? A lot of the aches and pains went away. I don't know if it's related, but I think I was probably an extreme case. I probably drank it more than most people. I used to drink it with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The only time I would drink water was when I was training at the gym.
I had a friend who went through a similar thing, and he didn't have aches and pains. He had acid indigestion, and he was popping Tums all the time. He was in a lot of pain over that. And he knew that it was the Diet Coke causing this. So he was talking to a doctor friend of his about it, and the doctor just looked at him and said, "Why don't you just stop drinking Diet Coke? Why do you have to get a prescription for your acid indigestion when you know that the Diet Coke is causing it? Just cut that out of your diet and you don't need anything." And you know what? He did it. And he doesn't have acid indigestion anymore. It's a recognition, I think, that there are things that you need to do, but you don't necessarily want to do them. It's become part of your life. And I think a lot of people go through something like that. But the first thing is assess where you are and what you want. And for you, it was, I want to be pain free. Can't blame you for that.
That story reminds me of that joke where the guy goes into the doctor and says, "Hey, doctor, it hurts whenever I do this, moving your arm up and down." And the doctor says, "Well, stop moving your arm up and down."
Yeah. I just told my daughter that yesterday.
It's a dry dad joke.
Yeah, sure
John,
is.
I think that about wraps up what we wanted to talk about today. Our next episode, we're going to be on aim or focus. What was your term that you had said?
Yeah, I think we would go with aim or focus. It's really the same thing.
It just sounded cooler the way that you said, instead of ready, aim, fire, you said assess, focus, and I guess take action, which is
and take action.
Yes. So
yeah, I think no matter what you call it, it results in the same thing, and it's a way to become successful at making change. So, and that's what we're focused about. I think that as we proceed with these podcasts, we're going to cover a broad range of subjects, and they're issues that we're all going to face in our lives: relationships, finances, jobs, our lifestyle. We're going to cover self-worth and regrets and uncertainty. All of these emotions and all of the feelings and thoughts, everyone feels them, especially when they're looking for change. And what we really want to do is provide people with the tools that we've used so you can create a life that you love. It's as simple as that.
sounds good. So till next time, a swift kick in the ass, give a swift kick in the ass to someone that you really love.
Yes, and let's just cover this before it goes viral. We don't mean to inflict pain on anybody. We're not meaning to kick somebody in the ass. I mean, I know it's funny at times, but not to the recipient. But our swift kick in the ass is purpose-driven action, either for yourself or someone that you really care about. It's an awakening and motivating yourself or others to be better.
You know, the reason I even see that in my head, a swift kick in the ass, it was from John's dad when we were little. He used to tell this story about how he was in the Korean War, and he jumped on some U-boat or whatever it was, some kind of boat, and there was a Korean guy there, and he said he gave him a swift kick in the ass. And as a kid, it was just, I was picturing him taking this action, and it's not beating him up. He just kicked him in the ass and pushed him out of the way, and I guess took control of the boat.
Took his gun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just so cool, and it was such a visual thing that we thought that would be a great title for our show.
And my dad, even though that story was not, it was made up, my dad was a real ass kicker. In fact, they had a printing business in Hollywood, and this magician had ordered a bunch of printing from them, cards and brochures, and just hundreds of dollars of printing. And my mom called him up to say it was ready, and he said, I don't want it anymore. And my mom said, but you placed this order, we did all this work, and now you don't want to pay for it? So my mom told my dad about it, and my dad said, you call him back up and you just offer him a great deal. I want to talk to this guy. And my mom got the guy to come into the print shop, and my dad stepped in and tried to talk to him to live up to his responsibility, and it was a lot of money back then. There was no doing. So the guy walks out to his car, and as he's leaning over to unlock the door, my dad thought, this is my one chance to get even with this guy. And he just let it loose and kicked the guy square in the ass.
That's great. I love it. That's perfect.
So we hope to do that with our listeners. We hope, but not to harm, but to motivate towards personal change.
Unless they don't pay you for their business cards.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
Until
another
next time.
story.
Thanks for listening.